Benedict Pierre de Chardin said, joy is the infallible sign of the presence of God. And really, joy is the natural condition of the soul. The presence of God is joy. And you can't be without your soul. Your soul is connected to God, so you are joy, your very nature. But a lot of times we don't know joy. We don't live from joy. We don't live as joy. And to do that, there are some qualities of the mind that we can incorporate, that we can use, that we can put into practice, because we're all about using the minds here and the power of our thoughts and our minds. We can put those into practice and they will line us up with our true nature. So on the Sunday before Christmas, we looked at those habits of the mind that are described in His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu's book, The Book of Joy. So, we had Christmas vacation, and now we're going to finish it up. And you'll catch up really quickly if you weren't here. And actually, the talk is on YouTube. Rick Schmeely, back over there, has put it on YouTube. I don't know how to tell you to find it. I could figure that one out, right? Well, we'll talk. But it's a great job. We're doing more of that, which is very exciting, I think, isn't it? Yeah. So thank you, Rick, for getting that in place. But to recap, the qualities of the mind were to gain a wider perspective, to see beyond what is happening, to see beyond appearances, and to see the good that is always there, right? No matter what is happening, even those things that we would never choose, there's an opportunity in it to maybe know God a little deeper, maybe know ourselves a little deeper, to see the possibilities and to know we are always moving forward in our spiritual awareness. We are always becoming more and more aware. And the things that happen in our lives give us that opportunity to keep doing that. The second quality was humility, to be humble. I think if we look at the Dalai Lama and that little smile, he is total, absolute humility, right? And if you think of the great spiritual teachers, the great spiritual masters, they too have a quality of humility, right? They're approachable in our minds. They don't raise themselves above others. So for joy, that's a quality for us too. To be in life, to be humble, to know we're all human, we're just doing the best we can for ourselves and for others. To know that helps us be joyful, really. We're right in life. The third quality was humor. The Dalai Lama and the Archbishop Tutu tell us to laugh often, that it releases our inner joy. And the fourth quality, which I think is the most important thing we can do, is acceptance. Accepting what is happening, accepting who we are and where we're at. Because the truth is, we can't change anything until we accept it. We can't change ourselves until we see where we are. A practice I'd like to share with you around that comes from Tara Brach, who's a Buddhist nun. And she, a Buddhist psychologist, she's not a nun. And she says, really, the most important thing, the ground of everything, is self-acceptance. She has a practice for us to really see if we're accepting ourselves. All our faults, all our whatevers, and all our greatness. And she says, whenever you can think about it, ask yourself the question, in this moment, am I accepting myself just as I am? In this moment, am I accepting myself just as I am? And the miracle around that is it doesn't mean that you start like backsliding and, okay, I can do whatever I want. It offers you an opportunity to really expand and to grow. You're accepting who you are. And from that place, you can ask, what's next? So, in this moment, am I accepting myself just as I am? And that quality of acceptance leads us into the next quality, because today we'll go to the 4 qualities of the heart, which are really the qualities of the soul. And that's forgiveness. In the Book of Joy, the authors write, when we accept the present, we can forgive and release the desire for a different past. We can forgive and release the desire for a different past. We let go of trying to change what has already happened. Instead, we are now present and we can ask, what's next? How much energy and time do we waste wishing that things had been different? Do we wish maybe we hadn't done something? We spend a lot of time in regret. There's nothing we can do about those things now. But we can't always move forward. Always. And maybe we can be grateful for what we learned and those things that we wish we had not done or another had not done. Releasing the desire for a different past confirms the definition of forgiveness that a religious science minister friend of mine uses. She says, forgiveness is releasing the demand that someone or something be any different from what they were or are. Releasing the demand that someone or something be any different from what they were or are. There's a freedom in that, an acceptance. The way Nelson Mandela handled the South African situation when apartheid finally ended in the early 1990s is one of the greatest lessons of what true forgiveness can do. The atrocities of apartheid had been in place for 75 years. Mandela himself had been imprisoned for 26 years. Upon his release, he became president of a country that was ripe for a bloodbath of revenge. Yet he brought about an amazingly peaceful transition. And the power he used to do that was not revenge, but forgiveness. In the Book of Joy, Archbishop Tutu writes, now I don't pretend that forgiveness comes easily. Those who say that forgiving is a sign of weakness haven't tried it. But we do have a nobility of spirit. We've spoken of Nelson Mandela as an amazing icon of forgiveness, but you and you and you have the potential to be instruments of forgiveness. We cannot say of anyone at all that they are totally unable to forgive. I think that all of us have this latent potential. Indeed, no one is incapable of forgiving, and no one is unforgivable. Okay. Yeah. There's a lot in that statement, isn't there? Yeah, we can all forgive. We all have that capability to be free of the past. We can all do it. And part of it is accepting that everyone, everything is forgivable. We don't forgive for them. You know this. We've talked about that before. We forgive for ourselves so that we are now free. Yeah. So that we can live as God lives. We can express the Spirit of God. Forgiveness, as Archbishop Tutu said, does not come easily. And it doesn't mean we don't hurt. It doesn't mean that what happened is okay. But it means we have decided to let it go. To embrace something new for ourselves. And in that embracing the something new, that's where the possibilities lie for our lives. The sixth pillar of joy is gratitude. And we've spoken of this quality recently and a lot, but it's so important that it bears repeating. Sometimes I think we talk about it so much that we forget what a valuable practice it is. What if every day you thought, as you wake up, I am fortunate to be alive. I have a precious human life. I'm not going to waste it. The Dalai Lama said that gratitude is our natural response to life. It's natural for us. And he thinks it might be the only way to savor it. It allows us to shift our perspective from what's wrong to what's right. We shift our perspective from lack to abundance, to what we have. I love the idea that it is not happiness that makes us grateful. Rather, it is gratefulness that makes us happy. And if acceptance means not fighting reality, gratitude means embracing it. It means moving from counting your burdens to counting your blessings. And the shift that that makes for us in just that moment that we do it. Buddhism teaches us to be grateful even for our enemies. The Dalai Lama calls them our most precious spiritual teachers, or our sacred friends. That's where we grow and we learn, right? In the difficulties of life. We don't often learn a lot when everything is rosy. If only, if only. The Dalai Lama said, when we are grateful, you are not fearful. And when you are not fearful, you are not violent. And violence happens with words, too. A lot in our society. When you are not fearful, you are not violent. When you are grateful, you act out of a sense of enough and not out of a sense of scarcity. We all know that where we live from is what we have more of. So when we are grateful, when we are noticing all that we have, we're opening the floodgates for more blessings to come into our lives simply because we are noticing them, we are being with them, we are open. When we are constantly thinking not enough, scarcity, there's no answer to this, that's all we see. And so every decision we make, every choice we make will come from scarcity, will come from not enough. What would it be if we made our choices all from abundance, from there is enough? I have enough, I am enough, there is enough. What would life be different if you did it that way? Our culture doesn't train us to do it that way. We're trained and our brain works in the way to see what's wrong. Remember the saying, we're Teflon for the positive and Velcro for the negative. We tend to see what's wrong. That's the quality of our brain. But if we switch it, if we switch to seeing what we have instead of what we don't, everything changes. And I've shared this before, but I just love it. Gratitude moves us from the front part of the brain where fear lives, that place that tries to keep us safe, the caveman amygdala brain, lizard brain. And that gratitude moves us to the back part of the brain, the part of the brain where there is spaciousness and compassion. So when you feel fearful, or anxiety, I think someone mentioned the other night in our transitions group, when you feel anxious, fearful. Be grateful for something that is present in this moment. The heat is on. Something right now that you can appreciate, and it moves you from that part of the brain to the back, to the spaciousness. So the seventh pillar is compassion. And I love the distinction that the Book of Joy makes between compassion and empathy. Empathy is having a great understanding of and even experiencing another's emotions. But compassion is a more empowered state. It's a state where we want what is best for that person. The Dalai Lama says it this way: if we see a person who is being crushed by a rock, the goal is not to get under the rock and feel what they are feeling. It is to help remove the rock. Right? Makes sense. Compassion is an innate quality in us, just like joy. In fact, studies have shown that children as young as 6 months old have a clear preference for toys that reflect helping rather than hindering another. They'll choose the helping toy. It's natural for us. The warm feeling that we get from helping others comes from the release of oxytocin, the same hormone that has been linked to reducing inflammation of the cardiovascular system. So compassion literally makes our heart healthy and happy. What the Archbishop and the Dalai Lama demonstrated throughout the week that they spent together, which resulted in this book, the Book of Joy, is one of the core paradoxes of happiness. That is, we are most joyful when we focus on others, not on ourselves. Yeah, I see heads nodding. Yes. So bringing joy to others is the fastest way to experience joy for yourself. The Dalai Lama said that even 10 minutes of meditation on the well-being of others can help you to feel joyful for the whole day. So we've used before the Buddhist practice of loving kindness, and that's a great pattern for that. And if you'd like to see the pattern for it, you can just Google loving kindness meditation and you'll find a lot of examples. But it's wishing for yourself and for another. It's holding another, and so it's great. You're bringing forth a joy for another, a compassion for another. May you be happy. May you be at peace. May you be well and healthy. But at the same time, you're upping your joy meter as you wish that for another and for the world. If you are willing, if you have the courage to live with an open heart, if we are willing to feel our own pain as well as the pain of others, that's the ground of compassion. We tend to do a little dive around, work around our own pain. We don't like to feel it. Understandably, it doesn't feel good. But the only way through it is to do it, to allow it. So when we are willing to open our hearts to ourselves and to others, open our hearts to our sadness, our fears, the sadness and fears and worries of another, it connects us to ourselves and to another, but it also opens the way for us to experience a deeper and greater joy, because your heart is a little more open now. So it's open to sadness, but it's also open to joy. And as we that field gets wider and wider of what we bring people into our world and our lives, as we share our hearts with another, it just gets bigger. It just expands ourselves and our world and what we're bringing into the world, which the world needs so much right now, is us to live with an open heart and an open mind. In the Book of Joy, it says, the bigger and warmer our heart, the stronger our sense of aliveness and resilience. The bigger our sense of aliveness and resilience. And part of that is the importance of self-compassion. You might have heard before the story about how shocked the Dalai Lama was when a group of Western psychologists came for an audience with him, and they told him how many of their patients struggle with self-hatred. It's kind of the American condition, maybe other countries too, but the Dalai Lama couldn't believe that we have to learn to love ourselves. He couldn't believe it. Wasn't a concept that he was aware of. Because a fundamental Buddhist teaching is self-love, self-care, self-compassion, self-acceptance. And if we don't have compassion for ourselves, we don't have it to give to others. Really. And then there is no joy. Our hearts are closed. So it all starts with self-compassion. The final pillar of joy is the 8th pillar, and that is the pillar of generosity. The Archbishop said, I've sometimes joked and said that God doesn't know very much math, because when you give to others, it should be that you are subtracting from yourself. But in this incredible kind of way, you give, and it then seems like, in fact, you are making space for more to be given to you. True. In Buddhist teachings, there are 3 kinds of generosity, and all 3 open ourselves to joy. First, it's material giving. It's giving of your time, your talent, and your treasure. And it's a counterintuitive thing. It's like, if I give money to a worthy cause or volunteer my time, doesn't it mean I have less of it? No. Miraculously, it doesn't work that way. I know for myself, when I give money or time, once I get over the initial writing the check element to it, we all have that, I always have more to give. And it becomes a source of my greatest joy. So I would encourage you, if you're not giving of your time or your talent or your treasure in some way, you give to some place that lights you up, where you see good is being done, that you want to see more of in your life. Try it. Try it. And just see that you do not experience a lack of money, of time, of talent. And this isn't you give and God rewards you because you're so good. No, that's not the way. It works this way because you are now in the flow of God. You are now being God on the ground. You are doing what God does. Because we are the hands and feet of God, right? We are the instruments of God. So I would encourage you, if you're not giving now, or maybe if you are giving, kind of look and say, oh yeah, notice, I do have enough. Just give it a try and see what it does for you. And it opens us up to a spaciousness. It opens us up to a security when we see, oh, we are secure. We have enough. So the first is material giving. The second kind of generosity in Buddhist teachings is giving freedom from fear, helping someone not to feel so fearful. It can involve actually physically protecting someone in a healthy way, or it can mean offering solace, offering compassion, helping someone to feel that they are not alone. The third way of giving is spiritual giving. That can be giving of your wisdom, sharing the teachings that we have here with another person. It can be helping people to be more self-sufficient and happier. One thing I always like is the idea of what we do here is we teach these principles so that you can go out and live them, live as yourself. That's spiritual giving, just being who you are, as you are, as the expression of God, just being that in the world. So, those are the 4 pillars of the heart: forgiveness, gratitude, compassion, and generosity. And they're combined with the pillars of the mind, the wider perspective, humility, humor, and acceptance. The qualities of the mind, the pillars of the mind are something we do, they're something we practice. The pillars of the heart are something we are. They're qualities of the soul. There are more qualities than these 4. Every quality of God is a quality of your soul. So love, strength, all our power, those are all your soul qualities and more. And the overarching goal of our lives, what we are here to do, is to live from the soul, to live as we truly are. And while it means expressing these qualities of God, it means expressing these qualities while you live the deep dream of your life. Whatever your dream is. A loving relationship, greater material resources to support what you are here to do, a healthier body and mind, a more balanced life, making a difference in the lives of others. There are as many deep dreams as there are people. They are the longing of the soul. And because your deep dreams, what you are longing to do in this world, in this new year, it comes from the soul and it tells you what is possible for you. Paramahansa Yogananda said, "The real you is the prolific source of all power, but the everyday you is only a fragment of that which can be brought out and manifested. The basic you, the real you, is infinite in its potentiality." The dream that you have, whatever that is, even if it's just to live more fully and freely as yourself, it's what you already know at the soul level is possible for you. And as you live these dreams, you do more and more of who you are and be more and more of who you are, and you are supported more and more in doing what you are here to do. Yogacharya Ellen Grace O'Brien tells of her guru asking the question, and it's a question that many of us have heard. What would you do if you knew you could not fail? What would you do if you knew you had all the necessary resources to accomplish your worthy goal? And she says that in that moment, something opened up for her. She says maybe it was a spot of divine grace, but she says it was just that she was ready. And she wondered, maybe for the first time, what if there was another way to live? And just thinking of that question brought her deep joy. There was this felt sense of soul freedom, a sense of a life unbounded, a sense of being set free from the limits imposed by the mind. Sometimes we're asked a question, and we see something, we hear something, and we suddenly could see what we cannot see before. That's a glimpse of your soul. That's a glimpse of the purpose for your life. And we can see that maybe, up until now, we've held back from living as who we truly are, doing what we came here to do. Maybe because of a fear of failure or limited thinking. Very often it's a lack of faith. we feel that we're all alone. I think that's one of the dangers of these New Thought teachings we come to, where it's we're asked to do a lot in New Thought teachings. We take responsibility for our spirituality. And sometimes we forget that we're not alone. Sometimes we think it's all up to us, and we're not. We forget that there's a divine support present always. So, in this coming year, if you have had a glimpse that maybe you could live differently, if you have had a thought, maybe I could see a little further this year, a wider perspective, that's your soul telling you it's possible for you. So you accept where you are, and you also embrace there is more here for you. Your soul is telling you. And once you have glimpsed that soul, which is just that idea of there is more to life than the way I've been living it, you have been given a gift. The gift of your soul is the message. You are enough. Namaste.